you need truth and life, here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, my listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon, and you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. Let's go on in this piece. Man, I got a show for you today, and that's the God knows truth. I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be straight up fire. We're going to end the Brother Leon Show with this interview and one more. And so today we have coming to the stage Miss Marla Stewart. Miss Marla Stewart is a sexologist. She's an author. She's a coach. She's a counselor. And the one thing that I want you guys to understand and know is that she is also a business owner as well as a partner with the Sex Down South Conference. And so, guys, she's going to be on the show, but I want to give you her bio. I want you guys to hear this. Marla Renee Stewart is a sexologist, author, sexual strategist who runs her own sexuality education company, Velvet Lips, and is also co-founder of the Sex Down South Conference. She has studied human sexuality for more than 20 years and has given over 500 workshops all over the world. She's also been featured on a variety of media outlets, including Netflix, Trigger Warning with Killer Mike, and Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. She co-wrote her first book, The Ultimate Guide to Seduction and Foreplay, with Dr. Jessica O'Reilly, which debuted in April of 2020. I'm telling you, man, she is the truth. And so we're going to have her on the show today. I want you guys, man, sit back because this is definitely going to be a good interview, because I want you to see, man, that we are transitioning, and that when it comes to sex and sexuality, we have to begin to celebrate difference. And we also have to begin to get to a place where we know how to communicate our wants and our needs, how to communicate to our partner. Because I'm going to tell you, man, I believe that sex begins in the morning with communication. If you want sex at night, you got to learn how to communicate all throughout the day. Communicate with your actions. Communicate with your words. Communicate with your gestures. Communicate with romance. Communicate with intimacy. And also learn how to embrace difference. It's okay for you to love and lust. It's okay for you to have a fetish for your partner. So today, man, we're going to talk about Sex Down South and also explore difference, but also hear what it was like transitioning. And so, man, I can't wait for you guys to listen to this interview with Miss Marla Stewart. All right, guys, hold tight. Miss Marla Stewart coming up next. And the one thing that I want you guys to understand, see, and know is this, is that in the midst of transition, a lot of times things begin to spring forth that are new. And so today, we are going to be bringing forth a new podcast. And I'll tell you about it probably in the next few days, but we're getting ready to go into adult content because I want you guys to understand that we've been going down this rabbit hole for a minute. And this rabbit hole has landed me into a land and into a vision that God has totally opened up my eyes. And that's the God knows truth. Because I never thought that through an interview that God would free me. I'm serious, man. When I did that interview with Daddy Hef, I began to examine myself and see the areas where I was bound and the areas that I put myself in a box. God wants you to be free in your sex and your sexuality, just like he wants you to be free from negative and damning addictions. Because God gives us all things richly to enjoy, even sex. And so the one thing that I want you guys to see is this. Begin to come out of the box and begin to see you've been bamboozled. Because when you begin to look at the Christian church and taboo subjects like this, like sex, it's always in a negative connotation. It's always negative context. But I'm here to tell you today is that God wants us blessed. God wants us free. God wants you to love him and embrace the kink. I'm going to say it again. Love God and embrace the kink. And so today with Miss Stewart coming on the show, we're going to go in deep. And that's the God knows truth. We are going to go in deep.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, Miss Stewart?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I'm real good. I'm real good. So, hey, I just want to welcome you to the show. Let me give you some applause. So, yeah, I was just did the intro and everything. So I just want to introduce you and everything to the listeners. And I'm excited. I'm not going to lie. I'm excited about this interview because I'm not going to lie. I've been believing God. I'm like, Lord, I need to interview a sexologist. So I thank you for your time and everything. And I'm looking forward to this. So let's start off with the first question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are you?
Well, there's so many ways to answer that question.
Okay.
I feel like I have a lot of identities and whatnot, but who am I? I am, if we're talking about what I do, I am my name is Marla Stewart, and I am a sexologist and sexual strategist. I am one of the co-founders of the Sex Down South conference. I run my own sexuality education business called Velvet Lips, in which I help people around seduction, communication, and enhance their sex skills. And I specialize in a lot of things, right? Kink, BDSM, non-monogamies, LGBTQ stuff, spiritual, sexuality, all sorts of different things. So, that's sort of my career and what I do. And, but yeah, so I would say I'm a person that, is a extroverted, Taurus, pleasure activist, a person who loves just about everyone. So, and, always sees the good and the potential of folks. But yeah, that's kind of who I am, I guess, in a nutshell.
Wow, let me give you some applause. You are a woman of many hats and very diverse. Let me give you that. So let me ask you this. How did you get on this journey? How did all of this begin with you? I mean, what was it like?
Well, I think part of it was, a big part of it is, my mom raising me. I would say she raised me as being a sex positive parent, even though she might not have seen it at the time. I think she raised me out of fear of being a teenage mother like herself. You know what I mean? So she just really educated me about my body and what was happening and really just, provided really solid information for me, which I'm very thankful for each and every day. And then, as I went on to college, I ended up I was like, I want to study human sexuality more. And so I started studying there. And, my friends were coming to me for advice. Because I was like, oh, if you're going to be having sex, you should be having orgasms. And, they weren't having orgasms. And so I thought that was like, no, so I really was just trying to make it my mission so that, women particularly are satisfied in having orgasms and having really robust sexual lives, because I know how much that sexual energy can be used to enhance, a lot of your life, not just in the bedroom, but outside of the bedroom. So that is particularly where my main focus lies, and just to helping people with their erotic energy, really, embrace their erotic energy and trust in their own power.
I like that because I agree with you when you have said that it's energy, because I believe that there is an exchange of energy. But I also believe that even with that energy, that you take that energy and you make good investments that's going to yield a good return. And so, when you're saying, having the orgasm and everything like that, I'm like, yeah, man, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for, to enhance and make that connection with one another. So I totally agree with everything that you're saying right now. Was your practice birthed out of this during your college years?
Yeah. So I studied it all throughout my college years. And then when I got to graduate school is when I started my business, Velvet Lips. So, yeah, basically when I started my business, that is sort of the birth and the birth of the business itself.
Wow, that's great. Let me give you some applause. So you got to tell me, how did you come up with the name? Because I'm like, yo, that's unique. That's definitely something.
Well, Velvet Lips, I came up with it because, even now, but even at the time, I wanted something that portrayed sexuality, but wasn't overtly sexual. Like, I just don't want to be like, enhance your sex skills or whatever, I wanted the name to be subtle so that it would kind of slide under the radar, honestly. Us in this industry, we get attacked a lot, and, they limit, who we can reach and what we can do. And, I just, I really, I just really, I just really wanted to fly under the radar. So Velvet Lips is basically kind of what do you call, like a play on terms, right? So Velvet Lips meaning thinking about sort of the smoothness of communication, how you talk, the sexiness of, velvet lips. But it also is a play on the vulva, right? Like, I'm thinking about my own vulva and my own velvet lips. And so it really is just sort of a play on words to let people, think about the sexiness of sex and sex education in general.
Yeah, I like that. Let me give you some applause. So I like what you said. Now, and here's my next question. Did you get any type of pushback while along the journey? What has been your experience, with the church? Has there been any religious pushbacks or anything about the work that you do or the education that you're providing?
Surprisingly, no. I've actually been hired by churches.
Wow, that's great. That's a first.
Yeah. I've actually been hired by churches for, their couples ministries and helping them understand each other as couples, helping them with their communication. I am I guess a knowledge, not a guru, but lifelong learner. So I've studied the Bible. I've studied the Quran. I've studied the Buddhist teachings. I've studied a lot of different religions, and I believe that really has helped me to connect with people of all sorts of different religions. So like I said, I've been hired by churches because I can talk about the Bible. I can talk about sexuality in a way that feels that they understand, and that doesn't, how do you say, go against, their religious beliefs. Because I believe that whatever religion you're in, it's the religion for you, at the time or whatever. So, I wholeheartedly believe that if this is what's good for you, then I'm with it,
Okay.
So
I like
yeah.
that. I like that. Let me give you some applause. Because, the Bible does say that God gives us all things richly to enjoy. And so I like the fact that you're helping people communicate, because I think the one thing that I've found, even in the Christian church, even amongst myself, was having that hard communication at the time about my sexual needs, desires, and wants. Because a lot of, the one thing about the Christian faith, and I think some people, they take and try to box or try not to have their human moments and everything, because you have to embrace your full humanity. And in doing so, I believe that in embracing your full humanity, you also embrace your full sexuality. So, instead of you trying to be a perfect Christian, just be the perfect human and embrace the teachings. And when it comes to sex and sexuality, don't allow, things to be so taboo, because I think a lot of times it's hard for Christians to, man, can I love God and, have a fetish at the same time? I'm like, yes, man, you can love God and big booty.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You can love God and love vagina. You can love God and love big penises or small penises or however. But I'm just like, hey, love God and embrace the kink. I'm serious. Love God, but be kinky and be who you are, because that's what God calls us to be. That's just my
right. And and we know, that God is love, right? And I think that's why the message that I have is so important, is because we really do need to embrace the love and embrace the love in each other, regardless of who we are. Yeah, we all have something that we can teach each other, regardless of what we believe.
Exactly. And that's the one thing that I'm really starting to see when I look at, religion and the industry. It's so much that we can learn from one another. And I think a lot of times, if we would just start to not look at what people do and what vocation they're in, when they're in the industry, just see people as people. Because there's always something to learn. There's always, different viewpoints and everything. So I'm a proponent for truth, but more so freedom. And that's the God knows truth. So let me ask you this. What is Sex Down South?
So Sex Down South is our conference. It is a conference that's all about sexuality, right? Whatever field of sexuality in, we want you there, and we want everybody there. But it is a conference that is for learning. So if you're a person who wants to learn more, want to enhance your sex life, or maybe you're an educator and you want to teach, or maybe you're an entertainer around sexuality, like, we invite you to be at Sex Down South, right? Maybe you have a sex-based business, or sexuality-based business. So, yeah, we do a lot of learning. Some of our learning, we try to provide live demos for people. We really, we really just want people to learn more about themselves. So, it's fun and it's learning during the day, and then we have fun and party at night. We have a dungeon, we have a healing space, we have places where people can go retreat, get healing, get love, and it's like a big family reunion. And yeah, we're going into our 9th year this year, and it'll be in September.
Wow.
September 7th and 9th, 2023.
Wow, let me give you some applause on that. That is great. That is definitely great. So let me ask you this. How is it different from Exotica?
Well, Exotica is more focused on porn stars. And we are not, right? So we are focused on of course we enjoy porn stars and they are already a part of, our, they are, a part of our lovable, the weaving of the quilt or whatever. Forget what I'm trying to say, but Exotica is, they have like it's more of like, it's very different. It's more of a conference and less of an exhibit. I would say Exotica is like an exhibit. There's vendors, there's, people who are, doing the chatterbait sessions or whatever. Like, there's people, lots of porn stars, lots of webcammers, it's more entertainment, I would say.
Okay.
And we are more learning and then, like I said, entertaining in the evening.
Okay. I like that. So how did you come up with the name? Is it just strictly like down south?
Yeah, we just, Tia and I were just sitting on my couch. We had done a ton of parties and had, a lot of people. And so we were like, let's do a conference. And we just had we wanted to have sex in the title. And so we were like, she was like, sex down south. And I was like, yes. And that's, pretty much how that was born because, being down south, right? Being in the middle of the Bible Belt in Atlanta, it's sort of like, it was like the perfect place to have it. We're the strip club capital of the world, right? So it's like we wanted to, enhance people's experiences of Atlanta around sexuality, but also recognizing how repressed or suppressed people's sexuality can be because we're in the South, right? And so we invite those people who are in the rural areas, who are in those places that normally don't get this stuff. Because it's typically, you can find this stuff in the Bay Area, you can find this stuff in New York, but in the South it's very difficult to find. So we wanted to be that place for people.
Wow, you know what? I love that. Let me give you some applause. Because you definitely hit the nail on the head about being in the Bible Belt. I'm not going to lie. I wish, you just said New York. I'm like, Lord, I wish they had something like this in Philly. Definitely where I live at in Delaware. I mean, because it's needed. I'm serious. It is definitely needed. Because the one thing that I've seen, in some of the circles, there's a lot of sexually frustrated people that are, repressed. They're trying to hide certain things. I'm like, nah, man, you need to come out the closet. Be who you are, because as long as there's secrets, you're always going to be tortured. You're always going to be tormented. So I totally believe in what you're doing. Totally.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What does sexual freedom look like to you, and why are people afraid and ashamed to be themselves, even when it comes to sex and sexuality? What's the hindrance?
Well, I think people are afraid to be themselves because of sometimes of the religious restrictions that have been put on them as young people. They learn maybe from an early age that sexuality is bad, or masturbation is bad, or don't touch your body parts, those are filthy, or, we have sometimes the religious sexual scripts that sometimes feed into that. And so it really gets hard to break away and unlearn some of those things as an adult. So I think, it's important that we understand sexuality in the context, and it's not necessarily any religion's fault. I think sometimes when we get taught, we just, and then I think sometimes it can really it can negatively affect, people. So I just wish that, people would embrace, who they are, what they do, and learn that, hey, nothing you do, is inherently bad unless it's not consensual. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That what you do with your own body, I think that for me is sexual freedom. Yeah. What you can do with your own body, how you express yourself, how you express your sexuality shouldn't be something that's negative. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, you know, here, particularly in the U.S., we've just kind of, I know I grew up in sort of the rape culture, right? So it's sort of like, how do we free ourselves from that kind of mindset and really embrace, like, you are who you are, I am who I am, and we can, you know, respect each other and our sexuality. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We can celebrate difference. You are definitely needed. We need teachers like you, deliverers like you, and healers like you. Let me give you some applause.
Oh, thank you.
So how did you meet your business partner?
No, it's so funny. She had recruited me she was putting together, she's an event producer, or she's a producer. And so she was putting together an event for Corset magazine at the time. And she was looking for presenters, and I popped up on her, you know, on Google. And so she said she fell in love with my bald head. And and so she invited me to do like a sort of mini workshop at the event. And before the event, she also was like, I want to order some aphrodisiacs. And I was like, okay. And then we just kind of got along really great. And I did the event. It was fantastic. And we just stayed in touch. And then after we stayed in touch, we threw a couple of parties. We threw like a carnival, which was for my birthday party. And it was a hit. It was like 200 people at my house.
Wow.
It was amazing. And we just had all sorts of things. We had this thing called the Tube of Love. We had a mobile spank booth. We had a Mexican rock band. We had fire dancers. We had just anything and everything you can think of, you know, pie eating contests. It was great. And so we just decided to do more and more events together. And that's how we just kind of cultivated our relationship. But yeah, this all started just from her recruiting me, you know, and finding me on the internet.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Let me give you some applause. So let me ask you this, like with the education, like what are some of the things, if I go to a Sex Down South, what are some of the things that I'm going to come across? Like school me, like, okay, I'm coming in this. What are some of the things, like some of the booths, some of the setups, and some of the things that I might see at a Sex Down South conference?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you first, you know, get to our registration desk, of course, we're going to have our consent form. A lot of people love our consent form because it's just, we have some guiding principles you got to abide by, you know. So you'll need to sign in. And we love people taking pictures. So if somebody doesn't want their picture taken, those are the people who, you know, are wearing like beads and whatnot. So if you don't want your picture taken, then you would get a set of beads. And then you walk in, and then there's like lots of vendor tables. So lots of different kinds of vendors, sexuality-based vendors. And it's not just sex toys. It could be everything. We've had games, we've had books, we've had posters, we've had, you know, people, their products, aphrodisiacs. We've had all sorts of kinds of vendors. We try not to have like duplicate vendors. So we don't ever, like, if there's somebody who's selling sex toys, we don't want a bunch of people selling sex toys. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, so so lots of different kinds of vendors. Then, of course, there's the workshop rooms. We also have a healing space. So we have different healers that do different things, whether that's tarot cards, whether that's, you know, massages, whether it's Reiki, cuddling. You know, we have all sorts of different healing modalities for people. We also have on-call therapists. So, you know, if you're triggered in any way or need to talk to someone, we have people who can provide that therapy. And then we also have a dungeon. So when our dungeon opens up, our dungeon director, she is the one who kind of coordinates a lot of things, but she we have the dungeon, so we have lots of different amazing, dungeon toys that people can play with, and if they need, to borrow some toys, they can do that too. So yeah, we kind of just try to provide, what people may want or need.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Definitely got to get that St. Andrew's cross. That's to God knows.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a couple of those.
Yeah, exactly. No dungeon is complete without that.
Exactly. And we also, like I said, the entertainment's at night. So we have parties in the evening where people can be entertained and dance. And then we have our closing party, which is Saturday night. And that is, we call it the Big Bang. And that is just like a party where, we have some performers, but also, we have some performers, but we also, turn into a dance party afterwards.
Wow, that's nice. So, so let me ask you this. Is it open to anyone? Like if I'm polyamorous, if I'm swinging, if I'm in an open relationship, that conference is for me?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Cool. Let me give you some applause on that. So let me ask you this. What was the first one like? The first Sex Down South convention?
Oh my gosh. It was amazing. We had a different little format for it. We had people who were, we did sort of like a sex X talk, like a TED talk kind of thing. So we implemented that. We also implemented what we call like education stations, which were kind of like taste and teasers of different kinds of things. So yeah, we will probably bring that back this year. But it was a little bit different, but it was still fun. We still, I believe we had we had healers. We had a healing space. We had, what else did we have? Those are kind of the differences, but we had no money. So we had a lot of really cool things that came through for us, like Atlanta Poly Weekend. That group, they supplied our AV equipment. We were able to just pull it together, and we had our sex celebs, and we were thinking like, oh, we'll ask 6 people, and maybe 2 of them will say yes. Well, they all said yes. So that was a bit of a transition. That was hard for us to be like, oh, wait a minute. What can we provide? So, and it was at the Sheraton Atlanta Airport, which was like a super cheap hotel, but it was, but it's closed down now. So, we've definitely upgraded, and it's definitely like a whole new experience now. Of course, going into our 9th year, but, yeah, it was still great though. We had 350 people show up for our first year.
Wow, that's good. Oh, that's real good.
Mm-hmm.
That is great. Let me give you some applause on that, because a lot of times, going out the box, it's like, Lord, I hope we get some people in. Yeah, but it looks like that, you guys are on point and everything. So, are you looking to expand? What's the goal? What's the goal of, the convention as a business, and even the goals that you want to set for the community at large?
Well, our goal is to just really help to educate people, bring people together in a sex-positive environment, and celebrate one another and love on one another. Yeah. That is really our goal, is to help people enjoy this moment, get refreshed, get energized, so they can go out there and help us with the sexual liberation movement in their communities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is ultimately our goal, is to help folks.
Exactly. Let me give you some applause. So I can't help but ask, was it hard during COVID?
We, had to transition to online.
Okay.
But it turned out to be actually really great, that pandemic year, 2020. So it was really great. Even though it was, we couldn't do it in person. We had basically our learning during the day on one platform and then our night activities on another platform. So it was really, the technology we had was really cool because people could like flirt and play different games and be in different rooms. So it was actually really awesome
Wow.
to have that. But what we realized though, like even though we had to transition after for the past 2 years, we've had to, we did a hybrid version where we had in person and online. But what we've learned is that, most people want to show up in person. So we are not doing a hybrid this year.
Okay. I like that. I think the one thing that I see with you is that you learn how to pivot, in the midst of a pandemic and keep things going and keep that vision, focused and everything. So I admire that about you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
No problem. So let me ask you this. Tell us about your books, because I was reading in your bio in the intro that you're an author. So tell us about some of your books.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a co-author of The Ultimate Guide to Seduction and Foreplay. I co-wrote that with Dr. Jess. We both basically have both of our sexual theories in there, mine being the seduction learning styles, hers being the core erotic feeling and the elevated erotic feeling. And then we have, of course, practice things that you can do based off of all of those. So, we really are, we're just excited to put it together. We're very proud of the book. And then last year, year before, December 21, I co-edited Intersectional Approach to Sex Therapy. So that's also definitely a feat, and lots of amazing writers and coaches and therapists who contributed to that. So those are the two major books that came out over the past few years.
Wow, that's great. Let me give you some applause. So how can we get copies of these books?
Oh, well, you can go to my website, velvetlipsexed.com, or you can go to anybody has any of those books. So I would love to say go to your local Black bookstore or your local feminist bookstore. Go to your, if you're, fan of Amazon, you can go on there too. But, any kind of book retailer will have those books.
Okay. All right, cool.
But you can also purchase The Ultimate Guide to Seduction and Foreplay. You can have an autographed copy from me from my website.
Oh, yeah, definitely. People, please go see Miss Stewart. Go to her website and get an autographed copy, because I sure enough am. So I think the one thing that I see, like last year, it was almost like last year, it was like the year of the Black woman, or the year of women in general. You know what I mean? And now looking at this year, I'm like, what's this year going to be like? So let me ask you this. Do you feel as though that women, really embraced, their power and their voice, when it comes to sex and sexuality and even, relationship wants and needs and desires? Do you think, that was the case last year? Did you see a lot of that last year?
Yeah, absolutely. I see that more and more each year, you know what I mean? And I think, a lot of that really just has to do with a lot of probably the celebrities helping folks, like Amber Rose and Slut Walk, or Candy Burris and the Dungeon Tour, or, Cardi B and, Megan Thee Stallion, and a lot of these other, stripper turned rappers who are helping to communicate and convey sexuality from the, female and femme lens. So I think it's super important. And yeah, I think it's amazing.
Wow, definitely. Thank you. Let me give you some applause. But I want to ask you this, and we're almost done. How can people get a hold of you for counseling and education, opportunities, or even some of the courses?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at velvetlipsexed.com. You can find me on social media at Velvet Lips Sex Ed, that's sex without the E, or at one Marla Stewart. Or you can also you can go to sexdownsouth.com for the Sex Down South conference. So you can find me on, wherever you are, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm on all of those places. LinkedIn. So you can probably just Google me and find me, but velvetlipsexed.com is the site that you can go to and find all of those things.
All right, let me give you some applause. Let me ask you this. Are you on Clubhouse? Do you occasionally go on Clubhouse?
I am. I need to get on it a little bit more. I'm also on the Moan app too, so I need to get on that a little bit more as well.
Okay. All right, cool. So when do the tickets go on sale for Sex Down South?
The tickets go on sale for Sex Down South. They're already on sale. So you can, so we basically do like a times tiered system. So they're cheaper now, but they'll be going up throughout the year.
Okay. Yeah, I think I definitely want to get me a couple tickets. So I definitely will.
Yes, absolutely.
I will definitely be in. So, can you leave us with some words of wisdom?
Words of wisdom. My favorite right now are really just trust your power and embrace the erotic, embrace your sexual energy. Really, say yes. Try something at least 3 times before you really say no. That's like my definitely my words of wisdom there.
Oh, I love it. Let me give you some applause.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let me give you some applause on that one. So let me ask you this. Last question. What is the future that you see with Sex Down South and just sexual liberation movements as a whole?
Well, I think, with Sex Down South, I definitely see us getting bigger. I definitely see us moving into, areas of where we, moving into, different kinds of areas. And I really feel like there's definitely going to be an expansion, of course, of Sex Down South and really having, but still kind of curating that family, reunion type feel. And then as far as sexual liberation movements in general, I think, there's always someone who wants to shut down, sexual liberation, right? You're too free, you're too this or too that, but, we only have one life to live. And so I think with sexual liberation movements, I think we are just going to continue to help each other thrive, continue to embrace one another, and continue to help spread the word that, we are teaching these things, we are helping people, and that, this is a very valid, a very valid form of being. So I just think that, we might see some differences maybe in legislation, right? We see now, I feel like it might be Connecticut or Massachusetts, one of those places has a city where they just are allowing multiple partners to have like custody over, children and whatnot. So I think this is a big win for, polyamory or folks who are non-monogamous. And so I do see, people and legislation and politics sort of moving in that direction.
Wow. Yeah, you know what? I am definitely for it. And I appreciate your viewpoint. So again, Ms. Stewart, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, people can get a hold of me by, of course, going to my website, velvetlipsexed.com, on social media at one Marla Stewart or at Velvet Lips Sex Ed without the E, or at SDS Con on Instagram. But yeah, you can find me anywhere. Simple Google will probably find me too.
All right. Let me give you some applause. And I just want to say thank you for your time. and everything. I so appreciate you because you are definitely needed for right now because, you know, people, they're looking for teachers. They're looking for someone who's going to accept them and someone that's going to help them. And I appreciate the work that you're doing because I see you as a deliverer and I see you as a healer. That's how I see you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Nah, no problem. But hey, you have yourself a blessed day. I'm looking forward.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward. I want to join y'all's movement. I'm serious.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on, and I can't wait to see you at Sex Down South.
All right. I can't wait to see you as well, and I can't wait. You know, hopefully we can do this again because I got a new platform that I'm starting in the coming weeks. So I definitely want to get with you again.
Absolutely.
All right. You take care.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. That was Miss Stewart. I'm telling you, it is definitely going to be one of those things because the one thing I want you guys to know is that God wants us free. God wants us to begin to embrace the unconventional. Because a lot of times when it comes to relationships and sex and sexuality, we're very judgmental. We're very judgmental if my covenant is different from your covenant, if my agreement is different from your agreement. And then we try to say because of the difference, then it's something wrong with you. Or it might be something wrong with me. And so the one thing that I want you guys to understand and be sure about is that when you look at that Bible, you see polyamory in the Bible. When you look at the church, you see BDSM in the church. Seriously. I'll give you the example of that. Because as a pastor, you're like the dominant person in there. A dom is a dominant. A congregant is the submissive. And the dominant gives discipline. You have to trust your dominant. And so the one thing that I want you guys to see is that there is an exchange that goes on between the two, between the dominant and the submissive, the top and the bottom, the pastor and the congregant. There is an exchange. And so the one thing that I want you guys to see and know is that we're not going to judge. I'm not going to judge you if you're polyamorous. I'm not going to judge you if you're a healer when it comes to sex and sexuality. I'm not going to judge you. Because we need people like Miss Stewart. And so, guys, I want you to check out the conference. Go online, check out Miss Stewart, get her books, sign up for the courses. Because we need this. There are too many people that have put themselves in a box and have put a muzzle over their mouths because they are afraid to ask, can their needs be met in a sexual type of way? And so, hey, I want you guys to be blessed. This was definitely good. And we are closing out the Brother Leon Show with this interview and one more. So you guys be blessed.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.